Have you ever heard a story so powerful it feels like it's being told by the wind itself? A story that, no matter how hard someone tries to bury it, just keeps finding a way to bloom? Today, we're diving into a tale like that. It's about a woman whose voice they tried to silence, but instead, it echoed from every corner of the world. Imagine this: a small town, nestled somewhere most maps forget. In that town lived a woman named Elara. She wasn't a queen or a warrior. She was a storyteller. Her tales weren't just words. They were threads of hope, courage, and truth, weaving the community together. She spoke of stars that whispered secrets to those who listened, of rivers that remembered the earth's first song, and of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Her voice was the town's heartbeat. But power, as it often does, fears what it cannot control. The new mayor, a man named Valerius, saw Elara's influence not as a gift, but as a threat. He dealt in concrete and contracts, not in stories and spirit. He believed that to control the people, you had to control the narrative. So he issued a decree. No more stories. No more public gatherings. No more of Elara's voice filling the town square. He thought that by shutting down the stage, he could stop the show. The town square fell quiet. Elara was confined to her home, her voice seemingly locked behind her own front door. A heavy silence fell over the town, thick and suffocating. Valerius thought he had won. He believed he had silenced her for good. But he fundamentally misunderstood the nature of a story. A story isn't a flame you can just snuff out. It's a seed. And he had just scattered thousands. The first sign that his plan was failing was subtle. A child, drawing on a dusty window pane, sketched a whispering star from one of Elara's tales. A baker began shaping his loaves into the form of the river of memories. The stories hadn't vanished. They had simply changed their form. They were no longer just spoken. They were being lived. Then something truly magical began to happen. Travelers who had once passed through the town, carrying with them the memory of Elara's voice, started sharing her stories in the next village and the next. A merchant on a trade route retold the tale of the courageous seed to a caravan of strangers. A young woman who had moved away wrote Elara's stories in letters to her cousin across the mountains. The stories started to travel faster and farther than Elara ever could. They crossed borders on ships, tucked into the pockets of sailors. They were whispered around campfires by nomads. They were translated by scholars in distant libraries who were fascinated by these simple yet profound tales of hope and resilience. Elara's voice wasn't coming from the town square anymore. It was coming from everywhere. Back in the town, the people found their own courage. Inspired by the stories echoing back to them from the outside world, they began their own quiet rebellion. An old weaver started creating tapestries depicting Elara's most famous tales, hanging them from her balcony for all to see. The blacksmith began hammering small iron symbols from the stories. A tiny, defiant moon, a winding river, and leaving them on doorsteps. Valerius was furious. He couldn't arrest someone for baking bread or weaving a blanket. How could he outlaw a symbol? He had tried to silence one voice, but now 1,000 voices were speaking in a language he couldn't prohibit. The town was communicating in a code of shared stories, a silent symphony of defiance right under his nose. The very air seemed to hum with Elara's spirit. One day, a famous cartographer arrived in the region. He had heard tales of a town where stories were more valuable than gold. He sought out the mayor, Valerius, and asked him about this legendary storyteller. Valerius, trying to save face, denied her existence. "Superstitious nonsense," he scoffed. "We are a town of progress, not fairy tales." But as the cartographer walked through the streets, he saw it all. He saw the star on the window, the loaf of bread shaped like a river, the woven tapestry of the whispering woods. He didn't need to hear Elara's voice. He could see her everywhere. He could feel her in the quiet smiles exchanged between neighbors, in the defiant glint in their eyes. He went to Ilara's small house. She welcomed him, not as a prisoner, but as a quiet gardener tending to a world of unseen blossoms. She told him he tried to cut down the tree, but he forgot it had already dropped its seeds on every wind. The cartographer, a man of maps and hard lines, did something unexpected. On his new, widely distributed map of the region, he didn't just mark the town with its official name. Next to it, he added a small note: "The town where stories breathe." That map traveled the world. People became curious. Artists, poets, and dreamers began to visit, not as tourists, but as pilgrims. They came to see the place where a voice, once silenced, had learned to speak from stone, from thread, from flower and water. They came and they listened, not just with their ears, but with their hearts. And Valerius? He became irrelevant. A man trying to rule over a silent square while the entire world was singing a song he couldn't hear. His power, built on silencing others, crumbled under the weight of 1,000 whispers. He was a forgotten footnote in a story that would be told for generations. Ilara's story teaches us something vital. It shows us that a voice, a message of hope and truth, can't truly be silenced. When you try to suppress it, you don't destroy it. You just force it to find new, more creative, and often more powerful ways to be heard. It becomes a part of the air we breathe, the art we create, and the kindness we share. Her voice wasn't just in her throat, it was in the courage of her community and the hearts of strangers. They tried to silence her, but in doing so, they made her immortal. They made her voice echo from everywhere. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey today. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments what it made you think of. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the incredible power of the human spirit. Until next time, keep listening for the stories all around you.